Welcome Duelists, this is your Ojama Blue here, introducing another page in our casual corner. Deck profiles aim for the casual player that wants to play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Without paying full price for admission. For our show today, we bring to you a deck from the XYZ universe and the World Duel Carnival itself, Heraldic Beasts. Everyone, please take your seat because our show is about to begin. Let us start. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another entry in our casual corner. To those that do not know, WeAreTeamOjama builds decks for Yu-Gi-Oh! For those that wish to play the game on a stricter budget. Realistically, any archetype or deck can be considered for casual corner, however they must fall under two specific rules. 1. The total cost of the deck, including the main and extra, must be at or below $120. 2. Each card in the deck cannot exceed the cost of $15 per card, so you won't find cards like Pot of Desires, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, or Utopia the Lightning in this casual corner deck profile. This is to ensure that the deck is available for anyone of any age. Rank 4 toolbox decks have always had a prominent role in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever since the introduction of the XYZ summoning mechanic. This is due to level 4s being the highest level 1 can typically normal summon without another card effect, as well as possessing a general high attack and defense stats to boost. There are several cards that advance that sort of game style, such as Summoner Monk, Kage to Kage, and Goblin de Berg. There are also several different archetypes that focus upon level 4 swarming tactics, such as Light Swarms, Butter Spies, Stellar Knights, Raid Raptors, and of course our featured deck of the day, Heraldic Beasts. Heraldic Beasts focus on tactics that recur advantage due to various card effects that occur when they are sent to the graveyard, or when you elect to banish them from the graveyard. And with that, let's get started pretty much. The lineup of Heraldic Beasts cards are as follows. 3 Leo, 3 Amphisbaena, I believe that is the creature's name. I am terrible with names, as you may know. 3 Heraldic Beasts Aberconway, 2 Heraldic Beast Unicorns, and 1 Heraldic Beast Twin-Headed Eagle. One of the best aspects of Heraldic Beasts are the roles that they play and how they interact with themselves. For example, Leo here is your main searcher of the deck, for he possesses a mandatory effect when he hits the graveyard to add 1 Heraldic Beast from deck to hand, making him one of the most prominent first play monsters in the deck, as well as arbitrarily one of the monsters you want to recur most often to keep hand advantage. It is however destroyed the end of the turn that it is normal summon, so be aware of that and always try to use them as material. So you don't leave an empty board, or at least waste your normal summon on something that will basically go away. Amphisbaena is one of the main summoners. By discarding one other Heraldic Beast monster in your hand, you can special summon him actually. A noteworthy thing about him is that he is a wind monster, so it opens certain options, or at least one option in my extra deck that I put in. He also possesses a field effect to discard 1 Heraldic Beast from your hand to gain 800 attack for the turn. In a pinch, turning him into a 25 beat stick can help, but it usually isn't used, and you just use them basically as summoning material. Aberconway here has a unique ability to banish 1 other copy of itself from the graveyard to add 1 Heraldic Beast monster from the grave to the hand, and thus is one of the monsters that aids in the deck's recovery. He is the other wind monster in the deck to make one of the more disruptive monsters in the extra deck. Unicorn here is one of the other monsters that help with recovery, as by banishing itself from the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Psychic XYZ monster from the graveyard. We'll go over this later when we talk about the extra deck, but know that Unicorn is one of the best monsters you want to have in the graveyard to ensure your plays are safe, and you always have a way to recover. Twin-Headed Eagle plays a somewhat different role in the deck, but is very supportive nonetheless. An XYZ monster with no materials can gain back some XYZ materials by banishing this card and giving it 2 more materials with any Heraldic Beast monster that is in the graveyard. This play can help reoccur effects situated for the scenario, but generally you use it to perform one particular power play that I'll go over in the extra deck. It also helps recur the effect of Leo, since it doesn't matter how Leo hits the graveyard. The mandatory effect makes it so it always activates and it will never miss time. Heraldic Beasts monsters as a whole have great effects and really go off in the graveyard. But one weakness in the deck has to be getting them into the graveyard in the first place, and to accelerate the deck's field. One of the main monsters in the extra decks helps with the first problem, but to cover the deck's weakness, we go over it with basically playing 2 additional engines in the deck to ensure that we get our plays off right. The second engine, the first engine, is the Clown Blade engine, consisting of 1 Perform Mage Trick Clown and 1000 Blades. For those of you that do not know, when Trick Clown, however he is sent to the graveyard, you could basically activate his effect to special summon him back with 0 attack and 0 defense, and you'll take 1000 damage. So, and with 1000 Blades, when you take effect damage while he's in the graveyard, you can special summon him in an attack position. So basically, when you trigger Trick Clown's effect to special summon him, or technically any Perform Mage, I believe actually, but you obviously, since I only play 1 Perform Mage, you target himself. But whenever you summon him, you'll take 1000 damage, and then with 1000 Blades, since you take 1000 damage, you basically special summon him. So it gives you basically 2 more monsters to XYZ summon, and it's really, really good in that regard. It's pretty old engine, but it's still effective nonetheless for XYZ spamming decks. The other 3 monsters I play, or at least 3 additional ones actually, is 3 Heroic Challenger Assault Halberds. Halberd has dual purpose as being a monster that can special summon itself when there's another monster on your opponent's side of the field. So he's kind of like a Cyber Dragon for the deck. And he also has a means to search for 1000 Blades if you could get the effect off. Because when you declare an attack, basically, and you deal the damage with him, basically you get to search for any Heraldic Challenger. So you'll generally search for 1000 Blades, or you could even search another copy of itself if you want to. Clown Blade, as a whole, makes for a reliable way to resummon monsters onto the field to fuel the XYZ, or the rank 4 XYZ toolbox, actually. The second engine that kind of ties them together is in the form of Brilliant Fusion. So we only play the 1 lonesome copy of Gemini Garnet as the target. Drawing it into your opening hand isn't the best feeling in the world, but at least you could use him as a 1900 beat stick, and just as another level 4 material monster for XYZ summoning at its worst. Gemini Garnet is one of the most expensive cards actually in this deck, so it's definitely replaceable with any level 4 Gemini monster, so it doesn't have to be him if you can't afford him or can't find him. Since it's fresh into our minds, when we go over the spells, I'm going to work a little backwards with it and introduce the triple Brilliant Fusion cards first. There are 2 light targets for Brilliant Fusion, the first being Trick Clown and the other being Heraldic Beast Unicorn. Typically, unless you have another way to trigger Trick Clown in the graveyard, you typically want to prioritize sending that to the graveyard instead of Unicorn. But Unicorn is a fair target unto itself, though you generally have better and easier ways to send it to the graveyard than using Brilliant Fusion. For the heraldry spells, I play 3 Advanced Heraldry Arts and 2 Heraldry Reborns. Let me center that actually. This ratio is fairly straightforward, as there are some of your best combo extenders and possible recovery plays. Advanced Heraldry Art targets 2 Heraldic Beasts in the graveyard and special summons them. And upon immediate summoning, you then XYZ summon using those 2 monsters. And the great thing about it is that you can summon any generic rank 2 or rank 4 monster. So it doesn't have to be, you're not restricted with like a particular monster type or a particular monster in name. You can summon any generic rank 4 monster. This means that basically the entire pool is available to use and basically services a strong purpose in the deck for any situation. Heraldry Reborn is kind of like the younger brother, and while not as usable per se, it's still a monster reborn in itself since you target a Heraldic Beast monster and special summon it. Thus, it's always a great addition for the deck, and you definitely don't want to underplay this card either. I play 2 rank up magic cards in this case, the limited Baron version, in order to get some of the more powerful monsters into the extra deck. Burrow from a Different Dimension is used to recycle some of your Heraldic Beast monsters like Unicorn, Eagle, and Aberconway. And it's pretty like general support for any deck that banishes cards and has recurring effects. I play 2 instant fusions for the Norden play, and yes, I know that the TCG ban list will basically hit Norden pretty soon, but even so, even with the Norden ban, I'd probably still play instant fusion in the deck and replace Norden with another level 4 fusion target like Mavelus or Invoke Caliga or Rare Fish. Pretty much any level 4 fusion, to be honest. It really doesn't matter which one. Because while playing Norden extends your plays by a much bigger margin, instant fusion, no matter what, is still a free monster for 1000 life points. So the trade is still good if you find yourself in a pinch and need to XYZ summon a monster onto the field. The rest of the spells are pretty general, with Dark Hole for board clearing, Reinforcements of the Army to search your Heraldic challengers, Foolish Burial to load the graveyard. Usually you'll send Leo with this, but it depends on the situation, of course. And 2 MSTs to deal with back row. Twin Twister, since it was printed as a common, is also a viable pick instead of MST, since you can also benefit from the discard. But you can never really go wrong with MST if you don't feel comfortable with losing hand advantage. So even if you need, no matter what, you always need to deal with back row, and you can never, ever go wrong with MST. There are 4 traps into the deck. 2 of them are for the trap hole targets for Flesia, which I play 1 bottomless trap hole, and the other I play void trap hole. Any other trap hole you feel like playing is good as well, but I like void trap hole since it negates the effect of a monster that is 2000 or more. So whether it would have any on-summon effect or some sort of anti-destruction effect on it, void trap hole will still negate the monster and destroy it regardless. It is my personal choice, of course, but other trap holes like Floodgates, trap holes, Space-Time Trap Hole, or Trap Tricks Nightmare Trap Hole, I believe that's the name, are also equally viable. The other 2 cards are monster negations, or realistically, with Solemn Warning and 1 Mind Over Matter. The psychic monster you play is an XYZ monster, and in all honesty, you don't mind destroying him for the purpose of negation, since you can still net advantage from it when it goes to the graveyard. So that pretty much concludes the main deck, so let's go on to the extra deck. The extra deck covers a broad set of weaknesses, but the main monsters of the deck has to be number 18, Heraldry Patriarch, and number 8, Heraldic King Genome Heritage. Patriarch has the effect that when a monster the same name are on the field, you can detach a material, target one of those monsters, and destroy all the others with the same name. As long as this card is face up on your opponent, as long as this card is face up, your opponent cannot summon the monsters of the same name that it destroys. So it's just in form of a lock. And what's unique about it is that this card is an effect that can happen once per chain instead of once per turn, allowing you to utilize it multiple times if need be. The best effect of it, though, has to be when it is sent to graveyard, because once it goes there, you can send 2 Heraldic Beasts from the deck to the graveyard instantly, meaning you can send Leo for a search if you haven't used it that turn, or you can send Unicorn to later revive Heraldic Beast Patriarch. Since it is an XYZ or Psychic XYZ type monster, you can special summon him again, and basically keep recurring his effect when it goes to the graveyard, which makes it really cool. You can also send like Aberconway to get your resources back, assuming you have another copy of it to send to the graveyard, or actually in the graveyard, I'm mistaken. So pretty much he's the main monster that you will summon on turn 1. If you could make 1 XYZ monster, you generally want to summon him, because no matter how he's destroyed, your opponent has to deal with the fact that now you're milling more cards and gaining more cards in return. King Genome is definitely one of the best mimickers in the deck because he has an ability that once per turn you can target another opponent's XYZ monster, and then King Genome basically becomes that monster. It steals the name, its attack, and its effect actually. So you don't use a detach effect in order to use it, but instead you can mimic any XYZ monster your opponent plays, and then use that to your advantage as well. So it makes it really, really good, and it works in tandem with Heraldic Patriarch as well. Though, realistically, unless you're playing against a heavy XYZ deck, you probably won't use them too often, realistically. But he is a Psychic XYZ monster, so you can summon him back again with Unicorn, even though his effect is negated. The rest of the XYZ monsters are support by situation. Diamond Dire Wolf, 101, Castel, and Lightning Chidori are all used for spot removal. Trap Tricks Rafflesia and Diamond Dire King are used for your defensive plays. And Dark Rebellion XYZ Dragon is used for your powerful pushes. The interesting thing about Yuto's Dragon is that its effect is actually not once per turn, meaning that using Twin-Headed Eagle from your graveyard, you can effectively use Dark Rebellion's attack draining effect twice per turn, making it extremely powerful if you hit 2 different targets. So once you do that, your opponent really has to deal with like a big, heavy body. It's really funny actually when you pull it off. Bujin Amaterasu is my only 3-card XYZ monster, since her effect is great at recycling your banished Heraldic Beasts, as well as add cards like Leo back to your hand, since her effects differ and use, I believe, yeah, you could actually use it on either player's turn, but the effect is different. On your opponent's turn, you can add it back to your hand from the graveyard, and during your turn, you can special summon a banished monster. So it's really nice to recur your effects outside of using the single copy of Burrow from a different dimension. My rank up targets are number C, 101, Silent Honor Dark. It's used for great monster removal, as well as an ability to self-res as long as 101 is in the graveyard and it has materials. So you constantly will bring it back, steal an opponent's monster, and then your opponent will have to deal with the fact that when it is destroyed, it will just come back, realistically, and be a big, giant nuisance. The other card that I play is number C69, Heraldic Crest of Horror. His defensive effect is great, as when your opponent declares an attack, it doesn't have to be on him, it could be on any monster that you control. You can trigger an effect that instantly nukes your opponent's field. Instantly, like GG Dori. GG Dori, bruh. That in combination with a 4000 attack natural makes him a very powerful monster to boot. I don't play the normal 69, so since it's a 3 material XYZ monster and it's realistically not as good as other generic rank 4 support. So I kind of skip out on him so you won't be able to use the effect, but his effect is not really that good even on the rank up, so it doesn't really matter. The last card that I play in the extra deck are Gem Knight's Seraphinite for the Brilliant Fusion, and Elder Entity Norden for the instant fusion target. Once again, once basically the June 12th ban list drops, Norden will no longer be able to be played, so you can once again just kind of replace him with any level 4 fusion monster, and you can just substitute it with that, and you could honestly play the deck just as good as it normally is. You just don't get as much advantage, sadly, which is a bad thing, of course, but you know, Norden really needed to be hit, so it didn't matter. And of course, that wraps up my Heraldic Beast deck. Heraldic Beasts in themselves are pretty inexpensive as a whole. This main deck costs around $60, and that is because of cards like Gem Knight Garnet, actually, which is about $6 by himself. So he's technically easily replaceable. You could replace him with Tourmaline or Sapphire, it really doesn't matter. So you could really cut the cost down already with that. The Brilliant Fusion in the whole is also kind of expensive, I believe. That one stands at $6 each and will probably be the most expensive card in the main deck. So the total cost of it, as I said, is like $60. For the extra deck, that stands around $35, with Seraphonite easily being the most expensive card at about $10. So all in all, the deck cost is about $95 to $100. Let's say like $96, I guess, is the fair price to call it. And as I said, honestly, you could lower the cost significantly by realistically not playing the Brilliant Fusion engine if you want to. But at the moment, I kind of find it the most optimal for the deck, since Brilliant Fusion is the best way to Foolish Burial, the Trick Clown, and get into all those shenanigans, I guess you would call it. Anyway, that is all for now, duelists. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and for more upcoming videos and more Casual Corner deck profiles in our lineup. Stay tuned, the fun is just getting started.